Section 1. The tight squeeze. What makes confined spaces tick? We've all been in tight spots, but in the wild, a confined space is more than just cramped. It's about risk. These spaces are not designed for continuous human occupancy. They often have limited entry and exit points. Think of a manhole, a grain silo, or even the inside of a large storage tank. These places can turn dangerous fast. Understanding why is key to survival. What makes these spaces so dangerous is their unpredictability. The environment inside can change rapidly. Gases build up. Oxygen gets depleted. You can't always see the danger. This is why confined spaces need a different approach. Awareness is everything out in the wild, and it's the same here. These spaces are often poorly ventilated. This means dangerous gases can accumulate quickly. One breath in the wrong place can be deadly. They can also be home to hidden dangers like electrical wiring or sharp objects. Always treat these spaces with extreme caution. Remember, preparation is key to survival. Section 2. Silent threats. Air you can't trust. One of the biggest dangers in any confined space is the air itself. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but it can kill you. We're talking about hazardous atmospheres. This isn't just about stale air. It's about the presence of toxic gases, flammable substances, or a lack of breathable oxygen. These hazards can be completely invisible. That's why it's crucial to never enter a confined space without proper testing and ventilation. Imagine being lowered into a sewer. You can't see the methane gas, but it's there. One spark could be disastrous. Or think about cleaning out a chemical storage tank. Residual fumes can linger, poisoning the air. These are situations where knowledge and preparation are your best allies. We'll explore specific atmospheric hazards and how to deal with them later on. Section 3. Trapped by design. Getting stuck in a tight corner. Confined spaces are often difficult to access and even harder to escape. Their limited entry and exit points can quickly become death traps in an emergency. Imagine a narrow mine shaft collapsing. The only way out is blocked. Panic sets in. That's why a well-planned escape route is crucial before you ever step foot inside. It's not just about getting in, it's about knowing how to get out fast. Think of it like navigating a narrow canyon. One wrong move could leave you stranded. Always have a backup plan. Ensure there's a secondary escape route or a way to call for help. Your life might depend on it. Remember, confined spaces demand respect. They're unforgiving environments. Never underestimate the importance of a well-thought-out escape strategy. Section 4. The unseen danger. Identifying hazardous atmospheres. We've talked about the risks of hazardous atmospheres, but how do you know if the air is safe? That's where gas detectors come in. These are essential tools in the fight for survival in confined spaces. They act like your senses, sniffing out dangers you can't see or smell. Different gases pose different threats. Some are flammable, some are toxic, and some can displace oxygen. A good gas detector will alert you to these dangers, giving you time to react. Think of it like a smoke alarm, but for invisible threats. There are various types of detectors, each designed for specific hazards. Some detect flammable gases, others monitor oxygen levels, and some can even identify toxic fumes. Knowing which detector to use and how to use it correctly is crucial. It's about understanding the environment you're entering and being prepared for the unseen. Section 5. The silent killer. Understanding oxygen deficiency. Oxygen is essential for life, we all know that. But in a confined space, oxygen levels can drop dangerously low without warning. This is called oxygen deficiency, and it's a silent killer. It can happen due to a variety of factors like rusting metal or the presence of certain gases. The scary part is, you might not even realize it's happening. Low oxygen levels can cause dizziness, confusion, and even unconsciousness. It's like being at high altitude, but without the stunning views. One minute you're fine, the next you're slipping away. That's why it's vital to have an oxygen monitor with you at all times when entering a confined space. This device will constantly measure the oxygen level in the air, alerting you if it drops below safe levels. Remember, your brain needs oxygen to function. Don't risk it. Section 6. Fire and fury. Flammable risks in confined spaces. Confined spaces can quickly turn into infernos if flammable materials are present. The combination of limited ventilation and a potential ignition source is a recipe for disaster. Think of a fuel storage tank. One spark could cause a catastrophic explosion. Flammable liquids, gases, and even dust particles can create a dangerous environment. That's why it's crucial to identify and eliminate any potential ignition sources before entering a confined space. This includes things like welding equipment, lighters, and even static electricity. Remember, fire needs three things to burn: fuel, oxygen, and heat. By removing any one of these elements, you can prevent a fire from starting. Always be aware of your surroundings and take steps to minimize the risk of fire. It's about understanding the potential consequences and acting accordingly. Section 7. Toxic terror, poison in the air. The air inside a confined space can harbor a cocktail of toxic gases, invisible enemies that can quickly overwhelm you. These gases can come from various sources, including chemical reactions, decaying organic matter, or even leaking equipment. Some common culprits include carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and ammonia. Exposure to these gases can have serious health consequences, ranging from headaches and nausea to respiratory failure and even death. The effects can be immediate and overwhelming, or they can be insidious, slowly poisoning you over time. That's why it's crucial to wear appropriate respiratory protection when entering a confined space that may contain toxic gases. A simple dust mask won't cut it here. You need a respirator that's specifically designed to filter out the specific gases present. Remember, your lungs are vulnerable. Protect them. Section 8. Drowning in dust, the danger of engulfment. It's not just gases and fumes that pose a threat in confined spaces. Engulfment is another serious hazard, and it can occur in various situations. Imagine a worker cleaning out a grain silo. Suddenly, a wall of grain collapses, burying them alive. Or think about someone working in a trench when the sides cave in, trapping them under tons of earth. These are terrifying scenarios, and they highlight the importance of understanding and mitigating the risks of engulfment. Proper training, engineering controls, and protective equipment are essential for preventing engulfment incidents. This includes using shoring equipment to support trench walls, wearing a safety harness and lifeline when working at heights, and having a rescue plan in place. Remember, engulfment can happen quickly and silently. Be prepared. Section 9. Gearing up for survival essential confined space equipment. Venturing into a confined space without the proper gear is like navigating a jungle without a compass. It's a recipe for disaster. Just like in the wild, the right equipment can make all the difference between life and death. First and foremost, you need a reliable gas detector. This trusty companion will alert you to the presence of dangerous gases, giving you a fighting chance to escape. Think of it as your early warning system. Next up is your breathing apparatus. Depending on the situation, you might need a respirator, an air purifying mask, or even a full-face self-contained breathing apparatus. Choose wisely, as your life depends on it. Don't skimp on this essential piece of gear. Section 10. Breathing easy ventilation, your lifeline in a confined space. Ventilation is your best friend in a confined space. It's like a breath of fresh air, literally. Proper ventilation helps to remove dangerous gases and fumes, replacing them with clean, breathable air. Think of it as flushing out a toxic environment. There are different methods of ventilation, from natural ventilation to using fans and blowers. The key is to create a constant flow of fresh air, ensuring that hazardous substances are diluted and carried away. Never rely solely on natural ventilation. It's often not enough to ensure a safe working environment. Always use mechanical ventilation to supplement natural airflow. Remember, breathing easy is key to staying alive in a confined space. Section 11. Testing the waters, atmospheric monitoring. Before you even think about entering a confined space, you need to know what you're dealing with. That's where atmospheric monitoring comes in. It's like checking the weather forecast, but for invisible threats. Using a gas detector, you'll need to test the air for a range of potential hazards, including oxygen levels, flammable gases, and toxic fumes. This should be done before entry and at regular intervals throughout the work. Remember, atmospheric conditions can change rapidly in a confined space. What's safe one minute could be deadly the next. Continuous monitoring is crucial for ensuring worker safety. It's about staying one step ahead of the invisible dangers. Section 12. No lone wolves, the buddy system and communication. In the wild, we look out for each other. The same goes for working in confined spaces. Never enter a confined space alone. The buddy system is crucial for ensuring that someone is always there to help in case of an emergency. Your buddy is your lifeline. They'll keep an eye on you from the outside, monitor atmospheric conditions, and be ready to call for help if needed. Communication is key. Establish clear signals and procedures before entering the space. Make sure you have a reliable way to communicate with each other, whether it's through hand signals, radios, or a rope and bucket system. Remember, teamwork can mean the difference between life and death in a confined space. Section 13. Training for Triumph. Knowledge is your best defense. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to confined spaces. Proper training is essential for anyone who works in or around these potentially deadly environments. It's not enough to just be aware of the risks, you need to know how to mitigate them. Training should cover everything from hazard identification and risk assessment to the proper use of equipment and emergency procedures. It's about equipping yourself with the knowledge and skills to make informed decisions and stay safe. Remember, your brain is your most valuable tool. Use it wisely. Invest in proper training and never stop learning. The more you know, the safer you'll be. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay alive.